Let's start from basic and understand what is cloud. Cloud is a network of data centers. These data centers are owned and managed by third-party organizations like Amazon, Google, Oracle. These data centers are built with thousands of servers, storage, and networking devices with very high processing powers. These data centers uses the virtualization technology to create and assign the resources to customers. You may be familiar with virtualization technology. Virtualization technology is where you can create the multiple virtual servers on same physical hardware. Consumers like you and me create the resources like servers, storage, networking devices as per our requirement. And virtualization technology used in the data center create the virtual resources on top of physical resources and assigned to different users. The cloud providers charge only for the time the users use the resources. If you created a server for 2 hours on the cloud, you will be charged only for 2 hours. It's not like our traditional data center where you need to purchase and pay the full cost of a server before you use it, even if you need the server only for a week. But in case of cloud, you don't need to purchase the server. You can create the virtual servers as per your requirement for the time you need and pay the charges. Cloud brings lots of benefits for its users. Consumers don't need to make any upfront investment to purchase the infrastructure. You can create the resources on cloud in few minutes, which take months of time with traditional way. The servers and storage capacity can be instantly increased or decreased as per your requirement and business need. Organizations putting that money for their business growth, which they use to invest in purchasing and managing the IT infrastructure in old age. So this is a very high level overview of what is cloud. We will go into more details as we move along in this course. Next, let's talk about cloud computing architecture. Cloud computing architecture is a complex and dynamic system that enables the organizations to design and deliver the secure services to their customers. Cloud computing architecture refers to the software and hardware component that work together to enable the delivery of the cloud services. These components include the physical servers, storage devices, networking infrastructure, and virtualization softwares that make up the cloud infrastructure. The cloud computing architecture shows how all the components required to build a cloud infrastructure are integrated. Cloud architecture divided into two sections. Front-end architecture. Front-end architecture include the user interfaces and applications which are used by the client to access the cloud services. The front end includes the components like local network, web browser, and web applications. Front end allow the user to interact with the back end of the cloud computing. The back end respond to the queries asked by the front end. Backend architecture. Backend architecture in the cloud refers to the hardware and storage that are located in the cloud environment. So let's talk more about front end and back end architecture of the cloud computing. Front end is used by the client to access the cloud applications. Front end contains the client side interfaces and applications that are required to access the cloud computing platform. The front end provides a graphical user interface to end users to access the application. The main front end cloud components are user interfaces, software running on the user's machine, and client devices like laptop or desktop. Front-end architecture includes the user interface that used to send the request to the backend cloud platform to perform any task. Some of the popular user interfaces are web browsers or API. Front-end also include the client devices or local network used by the end user to access the application. The front end also include the softwares that runs on the user's machine, like client-side applications or web browser. So the front end part is used by the client to access the cloud services. Like you open a web browser on your laptop, desktop, or mobile phone to access your cloud-hosted application. In this case, web browser on your laptop, desktop, or mobile phone is the front end. The cloud service providers like AWS, Microsoft, or Google manage the backend architecture for cloud computing. The backend usually contains the physical infrastructure and hardware along with security and management software. The cloud provider use the backend architecture to manage the resources that are required to provide the cloud services. In backend architecture, we have application. Application in the cloud computing backend architecture refers to a software or platform accessed by the client. The application takes care of the client request and requirement. Service. Service is an important component of a cloud computing backend architecture. The service handles every task that runs on the cloud. The service component manages which type of service you can access. It may be software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Storage. Storage in cloud is where your application's data is stored. It provides a large amount of storage capacity to store and manage the data in the cloud. Management layer coordinates between the front end and back end architecture in cloud computing system and oversees like application, administration, and security of the cloud. Security in cloud is necessary in order to protect the assets and data of the business. Security in the backend means protecting the cloud system and data from the unauthorized access. You open a web browser on your laptop, desktop, or phone to access your cloud hosted application via internet. The web browser or your laptop desktop is the front end, and the server where your application is actually hosted is the back end. Overall, cloud computing backend architecture is designed to provide the infrastructure and services to support the delivery of the cloud application. I hope you would have get some basic clarity of the cloud computing architecture. In this module, we will discuss about cloud computing models. Cloud is very flexible and based on your business requirement, you can deploy and use the cloud in your organization. Some organizations need the full control on the infrastructure created in the cloud. Some organizations don't want to manage their infrastructure. Some wants to build their custom applications. Some wants to use the applications created by cloud providers or third-party organizations. So based on type of deployment, flexibility, management, and control on the cloud, cloud computing is divided into two types of operating model: deployment model and service model. Deployment model is how you deploy and implement the cloud in your organization. It can be private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, or multi-cloud. Service model define the level of access and the management control on the cloud resources, and it can be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. We will talk about both deployment model and service model in more details in a moment. So let's talk about the cloud deployment model. Cloud deployment model is how you deploy or implement the cloud in your organization. Based on network architecture, the cloud deployment models are further divided into different types like private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, community cloud, and multi-cloud. Organizations are using these cloud computing model based on their business needs and requirement. Each model solves a specific set of problem and serve the different purpose. We will talk about these deployment models in detail in just a moment. Let's talk about private cloud. Private cloud is a dedicated environment for one user or customer. You don't share the hardware with any other users in private cloud. All the hardware is yours and you have full control on it. You can consider the current data center of your organization as your private cloud because all infrastructure in your data center is managed by you or your organization, and that infrastructure is not shared with other. You can host your private cloud on-prem or in cloud providers environment. There are multiple providers like AWS, Azure, VMware where you can host your private cloud. Private cloud can't be accessed from the internet. Only approved users of your organization can access these resources via secure private network. Private cloud has higher initial cost and user is responsible to manage the IT and hardware infrastructure. Organizations use the private cloud to keep their data strictly confidential within their environment. And it is also used with legacy system that cannot be accessed or integrated with public cloud. Private cloud brings lots of benefits for its users. Private cloud provides you dedicated and secure infrastructure with end-to-end control. Private cloud is a single tenant architecture and specific to an organization, which means the hardware, storage, and network are dedicated to a single client. It can be integrated with legacy system that cannot be integrated with the public cloud. Private cloud can be hosted on-prem or you can create your own private cloud within cloud provider's environment. Private cloud is preferred for security or compliance requirement. Next, let's talk about public cloud. Public cloud provide a shared platform that is accessible to everyone through an internet connection. Anyone can create their resources in public cloud. Public cloud physical infrastructure is owned and maintained by third-party providers. Public cloud is an alternative approach to traditional data centers. In public cloud, a third party hosts these scalable resources and delivers them to users via internet or a dedicated network connection. Public cloud saves the organization from owning, maintaining, and operating the complex infrastructure. Data stored in public cloud are open for everyone, and anyone can access the applications hosted on the public cloud. Providers have a multi-tenant architecture, which means multiple users run their resources on shared infrastructure and use the same computing resources. The data and workload for each user is logically separated and remain isolated from the data of the other users, which means no one can access the data of each other even if they are using the same physical hardware. Public cloud brings lots of benefits for its users. Minimal investment. Public cloud is a pay-per-use service. There is no upfront investment, and this makes it a best choice for users that need immediate access to resources with minimum investment. No physical setup required. The entire cloud infrastructure is fully deployed and managed by the cloud service provider, so you don't need to set up any hardware. No management overhead. The cloud infrastructure is managed by a cloud service provider, so there is no management overhead. Scalability, you can scale the infrastructure up or down as per your business requirement and whenever you need. You have the full flexibility to scale the infrastructure up or down as per your business requirements. Next, let's talk about hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud combines the benefits of both public and private cloud. In a hybrid cloud, some workloads and data are stored in a private cloud while others are stored in a public cloud. The private cloud can be used for sensitive workloads and data that require high level of security, control, and compliance. The public cloud can be used for non-sensitive workloads that require scalability, flexibility, and cost efficiency. Hybrid cloud is used when you want to keep some of the data strictly confidential within your on-prem environment and wants to host few applications on the cloud for public accessibility. This is most common deployment model used in organizations. The organizations moving their data centers from on-prem to cloud uses this deployment model. Some organizations cannot host all their applications on the public cloud because of security concerns or data protection requirement. Hybrid cloud enables you to run both on-prem and cloud applications at the same time. Managing a hybrid cloud is complex. So if you use a hybrid cloud, the cost of managing the architecture could be high compared to private cloud or public cloud. Next, let's talk about the community cloud. A community cloud is a cloud computing environment that is shared by multiple organizations with similar interest, such as government agencies, healthcare providers, or educational institutions. In a community cloud, the participating organizations collaborate to build, operate, and manage the cloud infrastructure. Community cloud can be hosted either on-prem or by third-party cloud service providers. Community clouds are cloud infrastructure that enables the multiple organizations to work together. It provides a shared platform and resources for organizations to work on their business requirements. Community cloud helps you to do the collaborative work on the cloud. These requirements are usually driven by the need of shared data, shared services, or shared industry regulations. Members of a community clouds are organizations that have common business requirements. Community cloud help you to share the resources and infrastructure with multiple organizations. Community cloud is a suitable model for both collaboration and data sharing. This model is operated and managed by community members, third-party vendors, or both. The organizations that share the common business requirement and wants to work together makes the members of the community cloud. Next, let's talk about the multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is a cloud computing strategy that involves multiple cloud providers. In a multi-cloud environment, organizations uses a combination of public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud for their applications. As cloud is growing popular, uses of multi-cloud is becoming normal, and organizations may run the workloads on different cloud platforms such as AWS, Azure, or Google. There are many regions and organizations select a multi-cloud strategy. A multi-cloud deployment helps the organizations to choose the services from different vendors. With multi-cloud models, an organization can choose the services based on number of factors like contract options, flexibility, and payment. Multi-cloud strategy brings a lots of benefits for the organizations. Maximum availability. By using the multiple cloud providers, organizations can ensure that their services and applications are available even if one cloud provider fails. Reducing the cost. By using multiple cloud providers, organizations can take advantage of different pricing models and optimize their cloud spending to reduce the cost. Compliance. Organizations can achieve the compliance and regulations that require data to be stored in specific location or require the certain security measures to be implemented. Avoiding the vendor lock-in. By using the multiple cloud providers, organizations can avoid being tied to a single vendor and can choose the best cloud services for each workload. So we talked about different cloud models. You can take the decision what deployment model is suitable for your organization based on your business requirements. The best cloud model for an organization depend on its specific need, requirement, and resources. We discussed about private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. Private cloud is best suited for organizations that require complete control over their data and infrastructure. It is best for companies with high security requirements such as those in the healthcare, finance, or in the government sector. Public cloud is typically the most cost-effective option and offers the scalability and flexibility and ease of use. It is best suited for organizations with limited IT resources, those who require a flexible and affordable solution. Hybrid cloud is a combination of public and private cloud that enables the organization to take the benefits of both the models. Multi-cloud involves the multiple cloud providers and organizations uses a combination of public, private, and hybrid cloud for their applications. You can select the right cloud computing model based on scalability. You need to check if your user's activity is growing quickly with spikes in demand. Privacy and security. Select a service provider that protect your privacy and security of your sensitive data. Cost. You may decide how many resources you need for your cloud solution. Ease of use. You may select a model which is easy to deploy and use for the organization. Legal or compliance. You need to check whether any specific law stop you from selecting any specific cloud deployment model. So you need to choose the right cloud deployment model based on your organization strategy and your business requirements. Cloud computing service model defines the different level of access, management, and control on the cloud infrastructure. Let's talk about the service model of cloud computing. You can have the different level of flexibility, control, and management on the cloud resources. And based on these cloud resources can be divided in three types like software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. This is called service model. Before we talk about service model of cloud computing, let's take a very famous analogy of ordering a pizza to understand the cloud computing service model. Let's say you want to order a pizza, then you have two options. One option is you can order it, and the other option is you can open a store, hire the staff, and cook the pizza for yourself. What will you do? Most likely, you will order the pizza from the pizza store, which is quick and easy way to get it. There are pros and cons of each approach. If you order a pizza from the pizza store, then you don't have any control on quality of ingredients used to prepare the pizza. You just order the pizza, pay for it, and you get it without knowing who is cooking it and what is used to cook the pizza. So based on your business requirement, you may need control on your infrastructure and on your application environment. And the level of control you get on your cloud infrastructure is defined by these service models. Next, let's talk about the software as a service. Software as a service is like ordering a pizza, where you just order what you need and pay for it. You do not have any control on resources and you don't need to manage the infrastructure. The software as a service model deliver the services and allow the multiple users to access it remotely via the internet. Most SaaS applications can be accessed directly from a web browser without any configuration at user's end. The software as a service are managed from a central location and hosted on a remote server. If there are any issues in accessing the software as a service, then vendors who is providing the services manage the issues like outage, maintenance, software upgrade, bug fix, etc. Software as a service is a multi-tenant architecture and easily customizable, which means multiple users run the resources on shared infrastructure and use the same computing resources. The data and workload of each user is logically separated and remain isolated from the data of other users. SaaS is easily customizable and designed to fit any organization's unique requirement without changing the organization's infrastructure. Emails like Hotmail, Gmail are perfect example of software as a service. We use our personal emails like Hotmail, Gmail without any knowledge of who is managing our email accounts and what is the infrastructure where our emails are hosted. As a user, we just use the service when we need it and everything is managed by the service provider. The services will be available for you all the time. The architecture or the infrastructure of the application is completely hidden to you. In a SaaS service model, you just don't need to manage anything. You just pay for the service and use it. Everything is managed and controlled by the service provider. You just need a web browser or API on your machine to access the applications. Next, let's talk about the platform as a service. In some scenarios, you want some control on your application and data. Platform as a service allow you to host the applications on the cloud instead of buying the services from the service provider. It's a leading service model that helps to address the modern business requirement. It's a simple and cost-effective deployment of applications with full control. This model is used when you want to host the applications that should be in your control, but don't want to manage the infrastructure where that application is hosted. The service provider provides you the pre-built platform managed by them to host your application. The application will be in your control, but the infrastructure where the application will be hosted will be managed by the service provider. Platform as a service leverages the virtualization technology to scale up or down the resources as per your requirement. The platform as a service model is perfectly suitable if you want to host new application but don't want to install the hardware or software personally in your place. It is best used for development, testing, and deployment of customized applications. Platform as service brings more value to cloud. It reduces your management overhead and lower the cost. In platform as a service model, you manage your applications and the infrastructure where that application is hosted is managed by the service provider. Next, we have infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service provide you full control on infrastructure. You create your own servers, network resources, storage, choose your operating system. This model provides the same technologies and capabilities as a traditional data center without burden of physically maintaining and managing the infrastructure. Infrastructure as a service is flexible and easy to deploy the resources in the cloud. You can increase the storage or servers as per your requirement. Except the management of physical hardware, you manage and control everything in the infrastructure as a service model. You can purchase the infrastructure as a service based on a consumption model instead of purchasing the hardware. This model enables you to add, delete, or reconfigure the IT infrastructure on demand. In this model, you manage and control up to the operating system. All physical hardware is managed by your service provider. So we talked about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. You can use any of the cloud service model based on your business requirement. On-site is having all your resources in your full control and manage everything your own, like your private data center. You can use the infrastructure as a service if you need full control on the infrastructure. This model helps the organization to change the hardware and software easily if your business requirements get changed. Platform as a service model is useful for companies developing, running, and managing the application interfaces but don't want to manage the infrastructure. If you develop a service like monitoring service and you want to sell your service to customers, then platform as a service model is more suitable for you as you just need to manage your service. You don't need to manage the infrastructure where that service is hosted. Software as a service helps in delivering the applications that can be widely distributed and accessed. So based on your requirement and business need, you need to choose the right service model for your organization. Next, let's quickly discuss about cloud computing stack. Cloud computing has changed the way of doing the business and how individuals use the technology services. But how does it work? Let's discuss the cloud computing stack that make up the cloud. Cloud computing stack refers to the layers of technology and services that make up the cloud computing infrastructure. It's like a pyramid where each layer is built on top of each other. Cloud computing stack provides a way to build and deploy the applications without investing in physical infrastructure or managing the softwares. By understanding the layers of cloud computing stack, you can better understand how the cloud works. Let's understand the cloud computing stack with a basic example. Let's say you want to create a web application that allow users to store and share photos. We will use the cloud computing stack to build the application. Here is how it might look. Let's start from the bottom of the stack. At the bottom of the stack, you would need the physical infrastructure to run your application. This could include servers, storage, and networking hardware. Instead of buying and maintaining your own physical hardware, you could use a cloud service provider like AWS or Microsoft Azure to provide the physical infrastructure. Cloud service provider manage this physical infrastructure for you. On top of the physical layer, we have a hypervisor which helps you to virtualize the physical infrastructure. Once you have access to the physical infrastructure, you would need to create a virtual servers to run your application. You could use a service like EC2, Microsoft Azure Virtual Machines to create and manage your virtual servers. You can choose your own operating system, storage, and networking components. This layer is generally referred as a infrastructure as a service, as it provides you the virtual infrastructure to host your applications. Once you have your virtual servers in place, you would need to install and configure the softwares that application require. This layer can include things like operating system, database, and middleware. By providing these tools and services, the platform layer makes it easier for developers to create and deploy the applications on the cloud. As a developers, you don't need to create and manage the infrastructure. You just need to build the application and the infrastructure is managed by the cloud service provider. This is generally referred as a platform as a service. Now that your platform is set up, you would need to build your application. This could involve writing code, adding features like text, messaging or payment system, emails. This layer makes it easy to access the application without the need of any change at customer end. This layer is generally referred as a software as a service or a SaaS layer. Finally, at the top of the stack, we have the user. This is where user interact with the cloud. This layer include the interfaces such as web portals, mobile apps, and APIs that allow users to access the services provided by the cloud. So based on level of control and management flexibility, you can select how you want to host your web application. Let's say if you want the full control on your web application, then you can go for the infrastructure as a service. You can host your own EC2 instance or Azure virtual machine. That EC2 instance or Azure virtual machine will be in your full control. So you can easily create, delete, or scale the EC2 instance or the Azure virtual machine whenever you need. So that's basically the infrastructure as a service. But if you want to use the pre-built platform and you don't want to manage the underlying EC2 or the virtual machine, then you can host your application as a platform as a service model. Cloud computing stack provides a way to build and deploy the complex applications without investing into the physical infrastructure. By using the cloud computing services, you can focus on building your application rather than worrying about managing the underlying technology and infrastructure. Cloud resources are essential components that allow the users to store, manage, and access the data and applications from anywhere in the world. There are multiple methods that can be used to provision and configure the resources in the cloud. Method 1, using cloud service provider. The easiest way to create the cloud resources is by using a cloud service provider such as Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform. These providers offer a wide range of cloud-based services such as storage, computing power, and databases, which can be created and managed through a user-friendly web-based console. To create a cloud resources using a service provider, you just need to select the resource you need, Specify the configuration, and the provider will take care of the rest. This approach is great for those who don't have a lot of technical knowledge or don't want to spend a lot of time managing their resources. Another way to create the cloud resources is by using the infrastructure as a code tool or IAC. IAC allow you to define and manage your cloud resources using code, and it makes it easier to deploy and manage the complex cloud environment. Tools like Terraform, CloudFormation, and Ansible can be used to create, modify, and delete the cloud resources using code. With infrastructure as a code tool, you can define your cloud infrastructure as a code file and version it using source control. It makes it easier to manage the changes and collaborate with the other team members. The infrastructure as a code tool are quite straightforward and declarative. These tools abstract the coding complexities from user and create the resources. You can also create the cloud resources using container technologies such as Docker and Kubernetes. Containers allow you to package the applications and their dependencies into a single portable unit that can be easily deployed on any of the cloud platform. And then Kubernetes can be used as orchestration platform to manage and scale the containerized applications. This approach is great for those who want to create highly scalable and portable applications that can run in any environment. We will use both Cloud Service Provider Web Console and infrastructure as a code tool to create and manage our resources in our lab environment in this course. And then you can easily decide what method is best suited for your environment to create the resources in the cloud.